I'm Afshin Ratansi, and welcome back to Going Underground, broadcasting all around the world from the UAE in a world without a nuclear strategic arms limitation treaty, which expired this week. Emblematic of the growing danger to life on Earth was this week's USS Abraham Lincoln warship shooting down an Iranian drone in the Gulf 100 miles or so from this studio. The war may have begun by the time you are watching this, or Witkoff, Aragchi, Kushner talks in Oman may have postponed catastrophe. This is Russia-USA talks here in the UAE continued to avert de facto nuclear conflict in Europe over Ukraine, at least even for show. The Rafah crossing between Gaza and Egypt opened as the genocide continued in Palestine, but Washington deploying troops to Nigeria and carrying out 26 airstrikes in Somalia in January alone demonstrates the global nature of the conflict. The UK-backed assassination of Saif Gaddafi in Libya, once Africa's richest per capita country before NATO nation destruction, was a testament this week to that. BRICS, for its part, showed strength by Iran, China and Russia this week, signing a comprehensive strategic pact against NATO aggression and economic warfare. Tying up everything is who really rules the NATO nations, and the latest 3 million Epstein Files gave us a glimpse of who does. What shapes NATO foreign policy was on display in the files of convicted rapist and Israeli intelligence asset Jeffrey Epstein. Ari Ben-Menashe worked in Israeli intelligence. He was cited by friend of the show Cy Hirsch in his book The Samson Option, outlining Zionist nuclear suicide strategy. He joins me once again from Montreal in Canada. Harry, so good to see you again. As I said, a war in this region may have already begun by the time this is being broadcast. Before we go on to perhaps more important issues, what effect do the 3 million Epstein documents have on Trump himself, given that that's what Trump's opponents were hoping for?
The Epstein files seem to be a distraction to everything else is happening in the world right now, and some of the material is out, some isn't out. We really don't. There's nothing about Trump really in what they released recently. Yes. And it's just a distraction right now.
Yeah, I mean, there are elements of Trump in it. And of course, new revelations are coming out every hour. But nothing that would destroy his presidency instantaneously, I suppose.
Correct. There's nothing there that will destroy his presidency. And in my opinion, the Israelis are holding some of the sensitive stuff, and they might let it out when they feel they're being threatened by Trump.
So you think Israel is controlling the Department of Justice as regards the release of information then?
I believe the Israelis have quite a bit of information that they can release, that the Department of Justice doesn't want to release.
Well, if Pam Bondi at the DOJ and Kash Patel at the FBI are still there, obviously we invite them on this program. They'll say it's all their decision-making. I mean, in fairness, the Times of Israel did this week note it had a FBI memo outlining a confidential human source about Trump being, quote, compromised by Israel, that Jared Kushner was at the center of this, and Chabad Lubavitch. I better remind our viewers, by the way, that, of course, you met Jeffrey Epstein numerous times at the offices of the father of Ghislaine Maxwell, Robert Maxwell, an Israeli asset.
Robert Maxwell, that's right.
What do you make of the Times of Israel focusing in on that, that Trump was compromised by Israel, and that Jared Kushner, you might have to remind us who Chabad Lubavitch is and that group within the Jewish community actually is?
Well, Epstein was recruited by Maxwell and then by Ehud Barak, who was director of military intelligence at the time, then prime minister. This goes back to the 80s, yes. And then they started work compromising people and so on and so forth. And my understanding is they compromised quite a number of American politicians and other politicians as well.
Which would explain the delay in getting this kind of information out in the first place.
And that's right.
Yeah, I should also tell our viewers. I mean, you're working now with Samir Hulia, a Palestinian in Ramallah, as regards all these different types of peace plans at the moment. Obviously, Tony Blair's name has been cropping up as a new governor of Gaza under Trump's plans. There was something about Tony Blair in these latest files. Ehud Barak, who you used to work for. He's walked out on this show for an interview. He's talking to Jeffrey Epstein. And Jeffrey Epstein is saying, Tony Blair has turned funny. I don't know if the money that Tony is getting is actually to Tony or to somebody else. He gets to pay some of the money to somebody else. Because I hear gigantic numbers given to Tony, 5 million here, 10 million here. Tony's not making 30 million a year. And Barak says, but probably he gets the money and he leaves some of it to others, to some of the providers. Any idea what Tony Blair, what they're referring to as regards Tony Blair? And what do you think about Tony Blair being named as part of the Gaza border for peace?
What am I supposed to say about that other than it's a wrong choice? And Tony Blair used to work for the Israelis. He used to have an office in East Jerusalem. And it was under the finger of the Israelis for quite a while. After he became prime minister, after he stepped down as prime minister. So I think Tony Blair is the wrong choice.
And as regards the allegations you made that Jeffrey Epstein essentially was working for Israel, it's notable that in Britain, which struggles along economically as it pours its cash into the Ukraine war, noticeably there's been a big scandal about the British ambassador to Washington having to resign. He's actually been on this program, Peter Mandelson. In Parliament, Keir Starmer, who himself is funded by Israeli lobbyists, who is the Prime Minister of Britain, he said MI6 vetted the appointment of Peter Mandelson, who has had to resign over his friendship with Jeffrey Epstein. So why would MI6 not have warned the Prime Minister that, as you contend, Jeffrey Epstein was working for that Peter Mandelson had been consorting with an Israeli agent?
They probably knew.
What's that?
They probably knew. They should have known, I think, but they're working together. It's fine with the Israelis.
I mean, that's quite an allegation, of course, because MI6 would say it's working for Britain. In this case, that would mean it would be working against the interests of the British in favor of the Israelis.
And, well, they may think that the interests of Britain and Israel is one and the same. They may think so.
Well, that would mean MI6 not working for the interests of the British people. I will return to MI6 because sources have told us they were involved in an assassination in Libya in recent days. But you may have noticed, maybe even where you are in Canada, they're trying to pin Putin to blame for Jeffrey Epstein as regards the information that's come out, these 3 million documents. You contend that there is a Russian angle as well as an Israeli angle, but it's not exactly Vladimir Putin.
No, well, the Israelis did work with the Russians, going back actually to Soviet days, going back to the 80s, yes? And, but this calling Epstein a Russian or a Soviet agent is nonsense. I mean, they're trying to cover up. It's a cover-up.
Yeah,
trying to cover up for you.
Poland's Prime Minister Donald Tusk, he just said it is Russia. That, of course, is Poland that didn't enforce the ICC warrant on Netanyahu.
Sure.
I mean, I don't know which...
Maybe it's...
Yeah, who's doing the cover-up?
I'm sure the Israelis are putting it out that he's a Russian agent. He was a Russian agent.
And so it would be Israeli policy they'd be referring to. There's a conversation in the files where Epstein says, it's great if we have chaos everywhere in Africa, across the Middle East, so that no country can have any particular power dynamic that can threaten the existing power structures.
Possibly, yeah, the way he thought was to create chaos wherever he went. Why? Different reasons. And probably to protect Israel and the other countries around in the West.
And you're saying that Israel is hanging on to the worst dirt on Donald Trump. But then if Israel wanted to sabotage the Witkoff Kushner-Ragchi talks in Oman, why not release all the dirt in one go, before the talks even took place? Why wait?
I have no idea what's going to happen in the next few days. As you said, you don't know when the Israelis are going to react, because they're very much against the talks between the U.S. and Iran. And the talks should be simple. We will open an embassy in Tehran, we Americans. We Iranians will open an embassy in Washington. You Americans remove sanctions. We will behave, and we'll let things move on slowly to fix our relationship. When the word "we will behave" meaning we will do certain things that you want us to do.
Ari Ben-Menashe, I'll stop you there. More from the former Israeli intelligence officer after this break. Welcome back to Going Underground. I'm still here with former Israeli intelligence officer and author of Prophets of War Inside the Secret US-Israeli Arms Network, Ari Ben-Menashe. Ari, at the end of part one, we were talking about when Netanyahu may choose to release the real information on Trump. I know that your old boss, Ehud Barak, and Epstein are in the latest tranche of files. In 2016, Barak asking Epstein whether Trump wanted an interview on Channel 10 TV to compete with a Israeli Channel 2 Clinton TV interview. What will pressure Netanyahu to release the real information that no one has at the moment?
In my opinion, if there's a real deal between the Americans and the Iranians, and it's going towards that, Netanyahu will try to sabotage it. One of the ways he'd sabotage it is by putting out Epstein material against U.S. government officials, including Trump. And he put it out there. New material that wasn't seen before in public.
So it's not just Trump. I know that Howard Lutnick is mentioned. There are other officials.
Not just Trump, other officials too. Yes. And he'll try to sabotage the whole negotiation and deal that would be that they're trying to make together. And I believe that President Trump really would like a deal with the Iranians. President Trump tried to do this deal at the end of his first term as president, but he was not reelected, he said that he will do the deal with Iran after I'm after the election, except the election came and went and he was not reelected. So this goes back quite a while that the American Trump and the Americans want to do a deal with the Iranians. They believe that this will bring peace to the Middle East.
So which side is Jared Kushner, his son-in-law, on in this? Is he a mole for Netanyahu, or can't Trump just tell him or plead with him to tell Netanyahu don't release it and seek peace instead?
I don't think the real negotiations are happening in Oman. I don't think it's with these people. I think it's happening in New York.
And what was the outcome of? I mean, if there are papers in here in these files involving the Qatari Prime Minister Hamad bin Jassim bin Jabir Al Thani. Ehud Barak actually walked off from this show when I was asking about how he facilitated funds to Hamas. In these files, Epstein is in contact with the Qatari Prime Minister. There's been no comment from the Qatari government on the file release. Is that because this is particularly sensitive, the role of Israel's role in supporting Hamas?
Well, going back to you're speaking about Gaza. Yes, the Israelis supported Hamas in order to build up. They were trying to bring stability to Gaza at the time. At the time, there was actually that was the policy then. But then, at some point, Mr. Netanyahu changed his mind and decided that he's going to have to destroy the Palestinians. There was a policy to support Hamas and build some sort of Palestinian entity, independent entity in Gaza. And as you may know, the PA has been sanctioned by the U.S. government, Palestinian Authority in Ramallah, yes. So the policy was to create a Palestinian entity in Gaza. They allowed money, they allowed resources to go in. But at some point, with the new government of Mr. Netanyahu things changed. They decided against it. Yes, there were negotiations with Hamas.
And you don't see any way that Trump can get rid of Netanyahu, Trump, the elected leader of the country with the largest military on earth, with all these covert agencies that can be used to kidnap world leaders like Maduro and his first lady, Celia Flores, now in New York. There's nothing Trump can do to get rid of Netanyahu to avoid his fate.
I can't say anything, but I can't say anything about that. But it would be hard to get rid of Netanyahu. Yes, it would be hard for anybody to try to get rid of him, unless he has him killed.
But it's your contention that Trump wants to get rid of him.
Yes, he does. Netanyahu has become a real problem for the U.S. and for other countries in the Middle East. That's right. And for Israel as well. Most of the Israelis are now against Netanyahu. And he's trying to stay in power because he knows what would happen if he's out of power. Even the Israeli president wasn't willing to give him a pardon.
And in the Samson option by Cy Hirsch, I mean, clearly Israel has this option to retaliate against a perceived enemy, even if it's going to destroy Israel itself. So, what would a war on Iran look like? There's a huge amount of military in this region. When Iran retaliates with its hypersonic missiles, what would you expect Israel to do?
If, in my opinion, if the Israelis use nuclear weapons against the Iranians, it would be the end of Israel the way we know it today.
So they wouldn't use them? No, according to the Samson option, they would use them nevertheless.
They would use it nevertheless. Yes, they would. And they wouldn't think about the future. They would just use it. Because we're dealing with a desperate group of people called the Israeli cabinet and government that want to stay in power and alive.
And the Israeli nuclear weapon program, they don't have a second switch in Washington like the British nuclear weapons that require United States approval. Netanyahu can just press the button anytime.
I believe that Netanyahu and his group can press the button at any time. Yes.
I'm sure in the Israeli cabinet, they'll be saying it never gets to that stage. They're often so successful at destroying their adversaries. They point to Syria, of course, and the ensuing chaos that's continued in Iraq, and notably, of course, the chaos in Libya. You worked with General Haftar, I understand, who was a CIA asset. What did you make of this assassination of Saif Gaddafi? Do you think in the Epstein files that were released, Epstein is talking about trying to get his hands on the sovereign wealth fund or proportions of it, and said that Mossad and MI6 will know about the retrieving, stealing the money of the Libyan people?
First of all, these monies were stolen already in the past. We won't get into detail right now. But about Saif Gaddafi, I believe that he was killed by Libyan elements because he was a threat to the Libyan government in the West. He wanted to take over the Western government in Libya. And it was real trouble for them. I don't think it had anything to do with anything else.
You mean he would have won the elections?
Yes, it was a popular fellow. I knew him. He was good. He was good. Yes.
And I mean, of course, in the short amount of time we have left, don't really have time to talk about the oligarchs, Gates, Musk, Branson, all these people, the Rothschilds who Epstein says he represents. I suppose you believe that Prince Andrew, or is he called Andrew, the artist once known as Prince, he was a linchpin of the Epstein Israeli operation to entrap all these oligarchs like Bill Gates.
The way I believe it, Andrew was the son of the Queen. So when he would invite these rich people to come for whatever, golf, play golf with him or have parties with him or so on, they would all come running because he was the son of the Queen. I called him the useful idiot for Epstein and the Israelis. He was a very useful idiot that brought all these people in to meet Epstein and whatever they did together.
And just finally, while the genocide continues in Palestine, while the bombing of Somalia, of Nigeria, of so many places, and the shadow of war in this region, do you think the women who were trafficked by Epstein and his network, supported by the Israelis, do you think any of the women's families, the survivors, will ever get justice for what was done to them?
Not the way it looks right now, no. No. I don't think anything's going to happen other than just more, would we say, more and more noise. Nothing else.
And as for its impact on these elites, will they continue to meet their Israeli handlers, or will they think again? Or will it need the next tranche of 3 million files, which have not been released so far, to persuade elected politicians not to be working basically for the Israeli government and not their own people?
I think it will take quite a bit more to persuade these people to stop working for the Israeli government. Yes. I don't think it's the end of it yet.
Right now, there are politicians doing what Epstein was doing.
Yeah. Yes.
Ari Ben-Menashe, thank you. That's it for the show. Continued condolences to those suffering the impact of the US-UK-EU armed bombing of Gaza and the attempts on Iran. We'll be back on Monday to investigate this week's World Government Summit here in Dubai, where 35 heads of state and 500 ministers from 150 governments around the world gathered under the shadow of US war. Until then, keep in touch via all our social media. If it's not censored in your country, and head to our channel, Going Underground TV on rumble.com, to watch new and old episodes of Going Underground. See you Monday.